everybody. Welcome back to my movie review series. Today we'll be discussing Training Day, starring Denzel Washington. Just finished watching it, another one of the movies. Again, I just have a list of movies that I liked in the past that I want to do reviews on. So I found another one that I liked that was on Hulu. A lot of the ones that I like are not on Hulu. But I got like 10 written down. So, this is obviously a classic. We have the classic line, "I'm surgical with this bitch, Jake." But here's the overview. This was produced in 2001. 69% like it on Metacritic, nice. 74% like it on Rotten Tomatoes, 7.7 out of 10 on IMDb, and 88% like this on Google. So the typical thing, I'll read you the overview, and I'll give you my overall impressions and grade. Then after that, if you've not seen the movie and would like to watch the movie or not watch the movie based on my recommendation, then you will want to shut off the video because there will be spoiler alerts. And these are just kind of like nostalgia videos if you've watched movies that you like and want to see someone recap them. So I did just get done rewatching this one. Similar movies and major themes. This one was also directed by Antoine Fuqua, who was the director of the Equalizer movies, which I just thought was interesting. So on a little Denzel kick, and it's the same director. So, we have a police drama about a veteran officer who escorts a rookie on his first day with the LAPD's tough inner-city narcotics unit. Training Day is a blistering action drama that asks the audience to decide what is necessary, what is heroic, and what crosses the line in the harrowing gray zone of fighting urban crime. Does law-abiding law enforcement come at the expense of justice and public safety? If so, do we demand safe streets at any cost? Originally released on October 5th, 2001. Overall, again, I thought the plot moved well. I thought the character development, not much for Jake Hoyt, because like his just values pretty much stay the same. So a little development through like the two kind of main characters, Alonzo and Jake. Alonzo played by Denzel, and Jake played by somebody else. But they're tight, the two main characters for sure. And so some development for Alonzo, not much for Jake. He kind of stays on his character arc, but. I thought the plot was developed very well. Again, trying to give my impressions, because once you see the movie the first time, you know what the major things are going to happen. So this is another one I really, really enjoyed. I thought there was some good depth to the characterization of Alonzo. Regardless, just the acting and the writing script of his character was thoroughly entertaining the entire time. So liked him. Jake was all right. And everyone else was certainly fine. But they're the predominantly main characters throughout the whole movie. So really like the characterization of Alonzo, how the plot moved along well, good action thriller. And yeah, so overall I'll give it an A-, the lower end of the well done, and easily could have been A+, because you do see Eva Mendes naked. So if you watch it on Hulu and you have to pause it, which I definitely did, I zoomed in, definitely got my eye candy for the day. That's probably not great for a movie review, but you do get to see Eva Mendes naked, and that is a plus. So, but overall, A-, upper end of well done. So if you've not seen the movie, shut it off now, there will be spoiler alerts. So you open up and you meet Jake Hoyt, he slaps the alarm clock, it's like 5 a.m., and he really wants to, his characterization is really like, he wants to do the hard cop work to clean up the streets. And he really stays on that kind of path the entire movie. So he's got his wife, he calls up Alonzo. Alonzo's getting real curt, real brief with him, real street dude, police cop, kind of, toes the line throughout the movies, but you initially meet him in a diner, and Jake is talking to him about it, reading the newspaper, and Alonzo's just like not having it. There's like, they just have some back and forth. The first thing they do is they go into, Alonzo has this like car, it's just like like a Mustang type of older. Yeah, this movie was made in 2001. I think it was modern times in 2001, but it could be anywhere from like the 80s to like 2000 time frame. And I think they have California plates in the video, so I'm assuming it's set in California. But they first kind of open up. What do they do first? I can't even remember the first thing they do. But they go bust a. They just see like a hand-to-hand drug interaction. I think there's something initially, but I forget. But regardless, I'll recall it the best I can, as always. But the first kind of interaction is you see there's this hand-to-hand, Alonzo's literally training Jake, who's coming over from a more privileged or just not gritty cop job, and he wants to clean up the streets, and Alonzo's going to teach him the ropes. And so they watch a hand-to-hand deal. Alonzo's kind of like, I have all of these people, I have these connections, these informants here. And they arrest they pull over these college kids, like really in the middle of the street. Alonzo like literally slams, they see a drug deal, hand-to-hand drug deal, and they stop him in the middle of the road. Alonzo's pulling out his gun, he's waving, he's a real, out-of-pocket police officer. But it's just some college kids picking up some weed. So they get the weed, and then they drive over to this guy named Roger's house, who's a drug dealer, but like Alonzo's like a informant, or they've been friends, or been working for, they have history. And so Alonzo makes Jake, he's like, smoke this. And he's like, no, I don't want to. And he slams the brakes again, stops the car like in the middle of the traffic. And he's like, if you don't want to smoke this or do this or whatever, get out of my car and go back to your prissy unit. And so Jake ends up, he's like, F it, I'll smoke it. Ends up smoking it. And then Alonzo is like, I didn't know you like to get wet. Because Jake thinks it's weed, Alonzo has given him PCP. And so the characterization, I thought it was really well done about, again, on the initial watching of it, just again exactly what Alonzo's going to do with Jake. Because a lot of the things like for when he has him smoke the weed, which is PCP really, he's like, plays it off almost as like it's a training for trying to arrest a drug dealer, where it's like if you're at an undercover buy and you don't hit the stuff, they're just going to shoot you and you'd be dead. So very quickly in the movie, Alonzo's pulled a gun on Jake, told him to smoke the thing, but now he has this PCP in his system. And they go to this guy Roger's house, and Jake is pretty much high out of his mind. So Alonzo and Roger Alonzo's having Roger kind of feel out Jake, and he's just high as shit for a while. Then after that, they're driving, doing some roadies, like Detective Edwin Powell of the Columbus Police Department. They're driving and drinking beers as police officers. But they're driving, and they see this girl getting attacked. And so, I'm not sure if it's before or after Roger, but regardless, Jake jumps out and beats up these two crackheads that are trying to rape a Latina girl named Letty. And so they beat him up. Alonzo's kind of like, Jake jumps out of the car and starts, wrestling two of the dudes. Alonzo just kind of stands back, smokes a cigarette, and watches. And Jake's like, you could have helped me. And he's like, well, you should have shot him. And then so Alonzo lets those dudes go. And it's just like, we have to catch the bigger fish or whatever. And so Alonzo's characterization is like, he is a dirty cop, but he does seem to have some value in what he's doing in terms of like actually helping the community. He's certainly an arrogant, has a big ego, but he basically like hits the dude in the balls with his gun, and then just kind of like lets him go. But at that point, you can really see Jake is just really getting into it, like, is this dude really like a cop? Like, what is his MO in terms of prosecution, in terms of doing his job? And so after that, they've met Roger, they've stopped Letty from getting raped. Where do they go next? Snoop Dogg is in this one, so they go try to get just like a bigger bust, or just to go try to do police work. Alonzo you have no background with Blue and Alonzo, but clearly they know each other. So Alonzo's played by Snoop, who's in a wheelchair. Snoop Dogg, the American actor, rapper, entertainer, and he's in a wheelchair. He tries Jake tries to undercover buy. Blue's like, fuck off. But he rolls away in a wheelchair and like tries to like swallow his drugs. Alonzo puts a pen in his mouth, he throws up the drugs, and then he like rips off the bullets, and like each time you have a bullet as a convicted felon, it's like 10 years, I guess. Don't know if that's true or not, but then Blue gives up his supplier, a guy named Sandman. So they go to Sandman's house, his wife is there, his kid's there, they've not gotten a warrant, and Alonzo's like, we're trying to bust the big things, do we want to get stuff done, or do we want to wait for a judge? And so he just fakes a warrant, he's got like a Chinese takeout menu, and he's like, here's the warrant, we got to searches the houses, finds nothing, and the wife is like, well, can I see the warrant now? And Alonzo's like, sure, and hands him the menu, and the chick goes crazy, and then all the gangbangers in the neighborhood start shooting at Alonzo and Jake. Alonzo fires back, no one really gets hit in that scene, but Jake is just like, what is going on at this point? And so at this point you do have reference, there are a couple lines, which on my initial watching of it, I didn't really catch it until about the middle of the movie, but when he originally meets with Roger, he does say, Roger tells him that the Russians are after him. So you do have you do know that Alonzo has debt to this Russian group, and you're not really sure how much or for what reason yet. But regardless, they figure out this guy named Sandman. They search his house, find nothing, have a big shootout, and then they go to Alonzo goes. They call them the Three Wise Men, but just higher ups in the police department, and they all seem to be kind of corrupt. Because basically what happens is Alonzo pays them $40,000. They're aware of his Russian situation, which once that scene happens, you know exactly. But there is a line from Roger that I didn't pick up the first time watching the movie. But so he basically pays $40,000 for an arrest warrant to go arrest Roger so he can confiscate money. And so he gets the okay to do that. Then you meet a couple other people. You meet, who is Paul? Well, so Alonzo has a crew of like 3 or 4 dirty cops that play a minor role, but Paul, the interesting one, was Dr. Dre, who I did not recognize as Dr. Dre whatsoever from watching it the first time at all. I didn't recognize it the second time, I only recognized it from the cast list. But so they go back to Roger's house, and Roger's been a long-time dealer. They go in there, and they have this. They bought this arrest warrant, and they find $4 million hidden under the floor of Roger's kitchen. And so at this point again, Jake has kind of bonded a little with Alonzo. They do the wolf cry, like, "Oh, show you're a man. If you want to be a wolf or catch the wolves, you got to be a wolf." And then they howl a little bit, and Jake sounds like a rooster, not a wolf or something. So they have bonded a little bit since the initial, like, Jake's like not so sure about this guy, because his characterization really throughout just being a good cop, which wasn't bad or off-putting. It just was no depth to it to me at all. But regardless, they find this money, and Alonzo's like, we on the evening news, rookie cop makes a bust with $3 million, and Jake's like, wait, it was $4 million. He's like, yeah, but no taxation without representation, and then they bust off $1 million for the crew, and so Jake's not with that, and so then there's a sharp break in the characterization of Alonzo and his crew versus this new guy that we're probably going to whack anyway. And so Jake's not with taking the money. The crew is not super with it. Alonzo keeps trying to like tiptoe him into the crime, so he has culpability and liability as well. And so he tells then Jake to shoot Roger. And Jake's like, no, are we serious? We just busted this thing. Jake's still trying to be a good cop, and now it's very clear Alonzo is just trying to save his own ass. And so Jake won't do it. Alonzo blasts Roger, and then after he blasts Roger, they set it up where it's like, again, they have the dead guys put the gun in his hand, and they have one of the other guy in their crew get shot twice in the bulletproof vest, so they have a just shooting cause for when the rest of the people come to see Roger has now been killed. And so he gets hit, the other guy in their crew gets hit twice in the bulletproof vest. One like slips underneath or something, but it either penetrates the vest or misses the vest. So he gets hit. I don't think he dies though, but he does get hit there. And then you have another tense standoff. Alonzo puts a gun to Jake. Jake takes the gun off Alonzo, holds it to Alonzo, and all of Alonzo's crew is holding guns to Jake. It's just not clear to me, like, again, for dramatic liberty, but again, Jake has a shotgun over Alonzo, who's on a couch, and there's 3 dudes behind Jake saying, with the guns pointed at him, and Jake's like, you can take me, but don't take him with me. It's like, if you got shot in the back of the head, you're not gonna have time to process the audio of the guns firing to shoot the trigger. So those scenes are always just a little goofy to me. It's like, you just cap that dude, he's dead, he's gone. But regardless, a tense scene. Jake kind of backs off Alonzo. Alonzo's like, Paul wants to kill Jake. Alonzo talks him all down. Jake punches Paul, and then the rest of the cops show up. And so now Alonzo still wants Jake to take money, and they're like outside of the house. All of that happened inside this guy's living room. Now they're outside, and a big police presence on the scene. Alonzo keeps trying to give him money, and Jake won't take it. So I really think it's at that point when they decide really to kill Jake. Because you hear Alonzo talking to this guy named Smiley, who's a Mexican gangbanger, and he's like, make sure that bathtub is clean. Another line I didn't catch until the second or third watch through. And so, basically, after they're all like that, Jake was like, I'm going to go back to my desk job. I'm not with this stuff at all. But at that point, Alonzo's like, you've seen too much. He doesn't say this, but his characterization and the plot development is, you've seen too much, you're going to get whacked. And so Alonzo and Jake going home, and again, this is all one day. But And another big leverage thing, which I thought was a great plot development. Again, certainly did not see it coming the first time. But when Jake had smoked the PCP in the beginning, at the beginning of the movie, he is now liability. Where again, all of these veteran cops saying he's the one that shot Roger, and if he doesn't with that, we're going to shoot you, and then just say that Roger got you as you came in the door. So I thought I just thought the plot development was very strong in this movie, and so obviously I knew that was coming in the second or third time watching it. But so they do that. Alonzo and Jake then go take. Alonzo's like, I do contribute something to the community. He's like, I'm gonna go help out the local, this Mexican neighborhood or Guatemalan or whatever, and they go there to drop off like a blender and a toaster, but it's really Alonzo dropping off money to have Jake killed. So Alonzo's like, hey man, I'm gonna take a shit. Jake sits down with Smiley, Sniper, and Moreno, and they play a little bit of 5-card poker. And after about 5 minutes, they're like, let me see your gun. Jake shows him the gun. He's like, I gotta get out of here. And then Smiley's like, look outside, Holmes. And the car's not there. So at that point, Jake knows that he's been set up and Alonzo's definitely going to kill him. So it's at that point, again, you knew that what Alonzo was doing, but at this point, it's just Jake versus Alonzo for sure. But so they fight it out a little bit. Jake tries to get away, run, gets beat up, and they have a big Latino household. And they tell the women to get out. There's like the 3 dudes they put him in the bathtub. They're gonna shoot him with a shotgun. And one of the dudes, I think Moreno, was like, let me take his money first. So then he goes into his pockets and pulls out the wallet from Letty, who he saved earlier in the day. And that happened to be Smiley's cousin. So after a tense battle, Smiley calls Letty, and then basically Jake was like, he does check out that Jake saved Letty, so Smiley lets Jake live. And so after that, Alonzo lives in what's called the jungle, which is, again, he's supposed to be like the police officer in this really ghetto area that's, he's got a street cred where he has things on everybody, so he's kind of like, again, this big ego, big arrogant dude for sure in the characterization. And so now Jake is just going to go try to arrest Alonzo. So it goes back to the jungle. Jake had met the daughter or the son of Alonzo, and Alonzo's married to or has a baby with Sarah, who's the Eva Mendes character. And so he goes back there, and he's walking through, and it's like, a bunch of gang members like, what are you doing in here, rookie? And they're like, he's here for Alonzo, and a lot of the neighborhood don't like Alonzo either, so they kind of let him through. Big, like a 30-minute standoff scene where Jake is, the child, Alonzo's son lets him in. Alonzo and Ava are in the bedroom. And so he's able to throw some rocks at the window, get the young child that he had met earlier in the day to open up the door, and then he busts into the bedroom. Right after this is when you get to see Eva Mendes naked. And so you do get to see some boobies first, and then and if you zoom in, you can pretty much see the whole stuff. So always important to know which hot actresses you can see in these movies. But regardless, Jake has him at gunpoint. And Alonzo has all these guns. He's got 2 shoulder straps, he's got a back pocket, he's got an ankle, and then so he gets all the guns and he has all this money from from stealing from Roger. And if he doesn't deliver the money to the Russians by midnight, they're gonna have a hit squad kill him. And so Jake is like, this is my evidence and I'm going to arrest you. And then Alonzo flicks a cigarette in his face and dives under the bed where there's another shotgun and shoots at him. And they both miss, so now they're in this apartment building with a standoff, the little kid's in there, and Sarah, the woman, is in there as well. So they go back and forth a couple shootings. That is when that's right after the first shotgun shell, and Alonzo's calling out for Jake. That's when you get to see her naked, and then, but regardless, they shoot back and forth a little bit, nobody hits each other, and then Ava runs out of the bedroom, and Jake's like, where did he go? And he went out the window. So Jake chases him out the window, they fight a little bit on this balcony, Jake gets beat up and left on the roof. And Alonzo thinks he's good, gets in his car, goes to drive the money, and Jake jumps off of the roof onto the car, and they fight it out there. And so Jake ends up kind of winning, getting the fight, has a gun on him, and Alonzo's like, this is really when Alonzo's ego really starts to break. He's yelling out at the community like, I can brawl you away, I can do this, I run this bitch, I do this. And the delivery of the "my niggas" in this one by Alonzo, perfection, absolutely fucking perfection. But in the fight scene in the apartment, that's when you get the iconic line of, "I'm surgical with the bitch, Jake." It's absolutely obviously a classic. But regardless, so Jake has a gun on him. Alonzo's beat up pretty bad. The whole neighborhood, all the gangbangers are watching. Alonzo's like, someone capped this fool, and nobody does. And one of the gangbangers puts a gun and it's like, if you have to do your own work around here, homie. And so another couple minutes standoff is like Alonzo's not sure if Jake will shoot him. He goes down, there's the gun and a pack of cigarettes, gets a pack of cigarettes, then goes for the gun after smoking a cigarette, and Jake shoots him in the ass. And so then the rest of the neighborhood kind of is like, takes Jake's side, like, we got this, you can get out of here now, man. And so Jake leaves. The rest of the gangbangers in the neighborhood is like on a cul-de-sac, and they basically just like Alonzo just disrespects their lives, and they just go back inside and like let the Russians deal with him or whatever. And so Alonzo's he does not have the money anymore. He's at he's like, what a day. It's really where his ego has broken now. He's at a stop sign. It's at the very end of the movie, and a car pulls up, and it's the Russian hit squad, and he gets lit up. The car gets shot a bunch, like 4 automatics just rifling into the fucking car. He stumbles out, clearly mortally wounded, and they hit him with another 100-round drums. So Alonzo's now dead, and Jake walks back into his house, and I forget what the line was, but he reverses the line on Alonzo. I think it was, do you want to go home, or do you want to go to jail or something, or do you want to go home, or do you want to die, or something like that. But he reverses the use of the verbs or the words against Alonzo. And so I thought that's really the end of the movie, but Jake walks back into his house, and you hear like the radio, Alonzo Harris is survived by a son and a wife. When that's the exact line that he used against Jake when he was like, if you don't go with us, go with the story of what happened with Roger, that's what's going to be happening to you. So overall, I thought it was very well done. A-. Again, I thought the plot development was really well, and I thought the actual twists and turns I didn't see coming. Again, the first time watching it, I thought the character in Alonzo Harris was extremely well written, had some character development. But overall, I just thought it was an interesting and a well-developed crime thriller drama movie for 2 hours. So on the lower end of well done, and like me some Denzel, and I thought it was interesting. It was the same director in Antoine Fuqua. But there you have it. That is my review for Training Day, and I will see you on the next one.